in the heart of Central America, lies a small nation shaped by fire, a land of volcanoes rising from the earth, a land where ancient civilizations flourished, a land that endured conquest, massacre, war, and rebirth. This is El Salvador, the smallest country in Central America, but one with a history as powerful as any in the region. From buried cities, frozen in ash, to revolutions and modern transformation. This is the story of a nation that refuses to break. Long before Europeans arrived, El Salvador was home to thriving indigenous cultures. The earliest settlers arrived thousands of years ago. By the classic Maya period, parts of western El Salvador were influenced by Mayan civilization. But later, a powerful Nahua-speaking people known as the People became dominant. The People were related to the Aztecs of central Mexico. They spoke Nahut, they built temples, they developed agriculture using maize, beans, squash, and cacao. They traded across Mesoamerica. One of the most extraordinary archaeological discoveries is Joya de Sierra around 600 AD. A volcanic eruption buried an entire farming village in ash. Unlike grand temples, this site preserved everyday life: homes, tools, food, even footprints. It revealed something powerful. El Salvador's ancient people were organized, intelligent, and deeply connected to the land. But their world would change forever in the 16th century. In 1524, Spanish conquistador Pedro de Alvarado entered the territory. The People resisted fiercely. Battles were fought near present-day San Salvador, but the Spanish brought horses, firearms, and diseases like smallpox. Within years, indigenous populations were devastated. El Salvador became part of the Captaincy General of Guatemala under Spanish rule. For nearly 300 years, Spain controlled the land. Catholicism spread rapidly. Indigenous labor was forced into colonial systems. Spanish towns were established. The economy centered on indigo, a valuable blue dye exported to Europe. Indigenous culture survived, but under oppression. The colonial system created deep inequality that would shape the country for centuries. On September 15, 1821, Central America declared independence from Spain. El Salvador celebrated, but uncertainty followed. The region briefly joined the Mexican Empire. After its collapse, it became part of the Federal Republic of Central America. Political instability and regional rivalry weakened the federation. In 1841, El Salvador officially became an independent republic. But independence did not mean equality. Power remained in the hands of wealthy landowners and military leaders. And a new economic force would soon define the nation. In the late 1800s, coffee replaced indigo as El Salvador's main export. Coffee became green gold. The government encouraged large coffee plantations. But to expand coffee production, communal indigenous lands were seized. Thousands of rural families lost their ancestral land. A small elite group of families gained enormous wealth and power. This became known as the coffee oligarchy. By the early 20th century, inequality was extreme. Most Salvadorans worked the land. Very few controlled it. The tension between wealth and poverty grew deeper each year. In 1932, after a peasant uprising influenced by indigenous activists and leftist leaders, the government responded brutally. Under General Maximiliano Hernandez Martinez, soldiers carried out mass killings. Between 20,000 and 30,000 people were murdered. This event became known as La Matanza, the massacre. Indigenous identity was suppressed. Traditional dress disappeared. The Nahuatl language was hidden. Fear shaped an entire generation. The scars of 1932 would never fully fade. By the 1970s, political repression, poverty, and inequality exploded into open conflict. In 1980, civil war erupted between the government and leftist guerrilla groups known as the FMLN. The war lasted 12 years. Entire villages were destroyed. Massacres shocked the world. Over 75,000 people were killed. Thousands more disappeared. Many Salvadorans fled to the United States, Canada, and elsewhere. Families were separated. Communities were torn apart. Finally, in 1992, peace accords were signed in Mexico City. The war ended, but rebuilding a broken nation would take time. After the war, many Salvadorans were living abroad, especially in Los Angeles. In immigrant neighborhoods, gangs formed for protection and identity. When the United States began deporting gang members in the 1990s, many returned to El Salvador. The country, still fragile from war, struggled to absorb them. Gangs like MS-13 and Barrio 18 expanded rapidly. Violence, extortion, and fear became daily realities. For years, El Salvador had one of the highest homicide rates in the world. The country longed for stability. In 2019, Nayib Bukele became president. He presented himself as an outsider to traditional political parties. In 2022, after a wave of gang violence, the government declared a state of exception. Thousands of suspected gang members were arrested. A massive new prison facility was built. Supporters say crime dropped dramatically. Many neighborhoods reported feeling safer for the first time in decades. Critics raise concerns about due process and civil rights. At the same time, El Salvador became the first country in the world to adopt Bitcoin as legal tender in 2021. The country shifted global attention toward itself. Tourism increased. International debate grew louder. El Salvador, once known primarily for war and gangs, was now known for bold decisions. El Salvador has faced conquest, massacre, dictatorship, war, migration, and violence. Yet it stands, small in size, powerful in spirit. A nation built by farmers, workers, migrants, and dreamers. A land of volcanoes that mirrors its history, explosive, intense, transformative. The story of El Salvador is not over. It continues, written by its people, and the world is watching.